So I'd like to acknowledge everybody here today joining us for this special event. This was work that was years in progress, and we're very, very pleased to highlight the lived experiences of our relatives living with an exceptionality, otherwise known as a disability. I'll kindly be your host today. My name is Marcia Simmons. I'm a proud member of Barons River First Nation in Treaty 5 territory. I'm also a proud member of the intergovernmental team at the First Nations Health and Social Secretariat of Manitoba. Miigwech for being here today. Before we proceed with our agenda, I would like to invite Chief Anderson from Norway House Cree Nation to start us off in a good way with an opening prayer.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, prayer is something people do it at the privacy of their own home. But First Nations feel that praying before any discussions brings goodness and peace. So that's what we'll pray for this morning in my language. Mantogilanas commitnanas agisakak. Yabitsis panik utadagi apya lagi vitsahaya hogtini minanak. Että menoja tsikvistoa että meno panigutsik että tuabastahik matsuno humanasaya ne mutama mantu mit no menoja wingawi se pagoseni mua tuhinoita menoja minotanosgawi yamitsik vistoat samitte henatsik tagiskentahigdansi että mastjohananwa oasis wegagoes menoja ogigutetustit nama nisnan. Let's gain that. I go say in Jesus' name, amen.
Miigwech, Chief Anderson. I would like to highlight what our procedure will be for today. So we will be hearing from our important leaders. As you may be aware, the FNISM is governed by our chiefs. So we continuously hear direction, responding to those emerging needs of our people and relatives and communities. So we'll be hearing from Chief Kent, our chairperson and chief of Black River First Nation, our Grand Chief, Kathy Merrick, in addition, Chief Anderson, and Chief Curvis Anderson in addition. To my right, we have families who will be speaking. We have the Bercier family consisting of Jean and Jen, the wonderful parents, to Kaylee and Abby. Also to my right is Joni Wilson, a wonderful mother and caregiver fighting the good fight, along with a powerful attorney who is there in the realm advocating for the betterment of services for our families. So we welcome you. We appreciate you being here. And I would like to also recognize that during our study, we've actually lost two participants who shared their story, shared their lived experience, and would have loved nothing more than to be here with us to share in this report. So I'd like to acknowledge them and their sacrifices, and also recognizing 1 month ago, I outlived my brother who died early from his disability. So I know that every day, every wrinkle, every gray hair is a gift that is not afforded to everyone. So I recognize his spirit is here with me and my sister, and I really am very appreciative for all of you and all of our families. So without further ado, I would like to introduce you to our first speaker, our chair of FNISM, Chief Sheldon Kent. Miigwech.
Thank you, Marcia. Good morning to everybody. First, I want to welcome all of you and the families, the people that are here to come and witness and help us release this information that FNISM worked on. But first, I want to acknowledge the Great Spirit. We have to have that connection with Kijimani too. He's the creator of all things and all things good, all things. He's the maker of the universe. I want to thank Chief Anderson for that opening prayer. Always important to start us off in a good way. My name is Sheldon Kent. I'm the chief from the Black River First Nation. We're about 176 kilometers north here of Winnipeg. We're on the east side of Lake Winnipeg on the eastern shores. So that I just say miigwech to everybody. I'd like to just get into my written notes I have here. Usually I don't follow the script, but today I'm going to follow the script. First and foremost, we would like to express our deepest gratitude to the participants and their caregivers and loved ones who generously shared their stories and experiences for this research report. Their invaluable contributions have provided profound insights and enriched our understandings of the challenges, triumphs, and nuances of exceptional relatives that their relatives have to face on a daily basis. The right to health and the treaty right to health research underscores a need to breaking down barriers, address disparities so that First Nations with exceptionalities have equal chance to enjoy the highest attainable levels of health. Canada has an enduring obligation to implement treaties, including the Treaty Right to Health. Findings from the research highlights how Canada and all levels of government have failed to meet this obligation. This failure too frequently means the responsibilities are offloaded onto the families. The families of the communities have to fill the gaps. We love our people. We want to do what's best for our people. We need to do our best to bring services home for them. As a leader, we do what we can, knowing it's not always enough. This report highlights the need to support the supports across the whole lifespan of the individuals. While progress has been made with Jordan's principle in supports in First Nations children living with these disabilities, this support abruptly stops once they turn at an adult age, leaving the young adults and their families to face significant challenges without the safety nets. Given that we have the new Indigenous Premier, whoa, Wob. So I'm just changing it a little bit there. We're very proud of Wob, who is also responsible for Indigenous reconciliation. We all, as well as the Ministers of Family, Nahanni Fontaine, we are hopeful more efforts on behalf of the province to come to the table to have meaningful address jurisdictional issues. These recommendations are the building blocks for a more equitable and supportive future. It is now incumbent upon the Government of Canada and other levels of government to work alongside with the First Nations to address the critical issues and recommendations highlighted in this report. And determination of First Nations with the exceptionalities to call action on a collective, we heed that call. Anyway, today I'm going to go off script now. I followed script there, but I do know that from personal experiences in my community, and I have friends. I have former Chief Derek Henderson in the audience here. I've watched him. He used to be there. He used to ref us, but he had an injury, and we watched him as they have to live with the disabilities and it's challenging for them. So when the children, the Jordan's Principle programs are available to support them, when they age out, there's no supports for them. So it's very important that we provide supports for them because life goes on. They need those supports as we move forward. I do want to take this time to thank our board of directors, my colleagues, the chiefs, and our staff at the FINISM office. They do exceptional work. I'm proud of all the work that they do and the partnerships we create. With partnerships, the report that's being released today is that's the kind of work that we're doing at FINISM. It shows that the gap is widening. We need to close that gap and fix those services for people living with disabilities. So I'm proud to be here this afternoon or this morning to bring greetings to everybody. So that I'll say Kachimigwech and wish everybody safe travels home. And I'm thankful for the families that are here. I'll close there. I'll turn back to Marcia. Miigwech. Hey.
Gwetch, Chief. So a fun fact, Grand Chief Kathy Merrick from Pimachikamak Cree Nation was our former chair. So she's very intimately aware of health and the emerging needs. So we're very happy you're here today, Grand Chief. The floor is yours. Miigwech.
Iwisani, good morning. Nanaskumun, epise, witsewitaguk, mine epise, witsegaperistataguk, itsegegon, egetuskatamik, mitset kitenyiminanak, aga egiatsik, tatamiskatamak, at tayukawisiminigoisyak. Good morning. My name is Kathy Merrick. I'm the Grand Chief for the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs. I represent 62 First Nations. I represent 165,000 people in Manitoba. And we're the highest, we have the highest population in terms of our people in this province nationally. And so that says a lot. And I realize and I know by being here today that we need to continue on doing the work that needs to be done. As a former chief, as a former leader for Pimichikamak, aka Cross Lake Band of Indians, I know the obstacles that our people face each and every day. So before I get into it, though, I just want to read from script as well. And I just want to thank the First Nations Health and Social Secretariat of Manitoba for inviting me to speak at this press release event on supporting the gift of First Nations living with exceptionalities research report. I want to acknowledge the FINISM staff, researchers, community-based staff, health professionals, and families that added their voices, their guidance, their time, and their experiences in this research study. This gathering is a crucial platform for us to shed light on the challenges and gaps in service that impact First Nation adults and their families accessing support. It is our expectation that the report, findings, and recommendations will bring about positive change and significant impacts for First Nations living with exceptionalities across Manitoba. This report is a testament to the experiences of First Nations adults living with exceptionalities in Manitoba. It represents a significant step towards realizing our shared vision of a world where First Nations living with exceptionalities can survive, thrive, and lead fulfilling lives. First Nations deserve health and social systems that not only prioritize wellness promotion and illness prevention, but also address the root cause of health disparities, including the effects of colonization, the impacts of intergenerational trauma, and ongoing poverty. This report presents 31 recommendations to enhance programs and support for First Nations living with exceptionalities. These recommendations are directed at the Government of Canada, with the urgent need for collaboration between various levels of government and institutions for a meaningful change. The findings in this report and the collaboration required from First Nation leadership and the federal, provincial, and municipal governments to carry out these recommendations need a renewed fiscal relationship between First Nations and Canada. Reconciliation requires a renewed fiscal relationship. That is the first step in implementing these recommendations and improving the quality of life for our relatives. As our treaty partner, Canada bears a legal binding fiduciary obligation to act in the best interest of First Nations. This entails working collaboratively with us to implement these recommendations, ensuring prompt execution and restructuring of systems to align with our aspirations as sovereign nations. Earlier this year, the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs prepared an alternative budget for submission to the House of Commons Standing Committee on Finance for the pre-budget consultations in advance of the upcoming federal budget. In our proposed budget, health, dignity, cultural, and spiritual well-being fall within a shared expenditure category. This strengthens and affirms the findings outlined in the current report, highlighting the participants' consistent emphasis on the importance of cultural for their overall well-being. First Nations need the integration of their culture, their languages, and spirituality into support systems and services, both within and beyond reserve areas. As Grand Chief of the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs, I expect that our treaty partner thoroughly examines these findings and sincerely addresses the comprehensive needs of First Nations to achieve and sustain genuine reconciliation. AMC will strongly advocate for the report's recommendations by both federal and provincial governments, highlighting the need for action. We call upon the government's bodies to collaborate with First Nations and engage with investments to implement the recommendation actions. As we move forward, let us remember that our goal is to empower First Nation citizens with exceptionalities to live fulfilling lives, deeply connected to their homes, to their families, to their communities, to their cultures, and to their land. The vision captured within this report demonstrates the meaning of true well-being. So I say that today, a lot of times there are people that are forgotten in our systems. There are people that are overlooked when there's a program and when there's organizations that deliver services. And they fall between the cracks. And our group of people here today, a lot of families face what they have faced. So it is time that we call out to the government. It is time that we have done work, that we have done a lot of work when it comes to our people, that we be able to speak for them and speak with them, and to be able to share their what they face every day and what we take for granted, so that we be able to talk for them, that we can make it a little bit better for them. And that is why we are leaders, and that is why we are here today, to be able to echo this report and to reach out to the federal government and the provincial government and to let them know that this is the request of our First Nation people that live in our First Nations, our First Nation people that live in urban areas, that we are here to speak for them.
The term exceptionalities. Where did that come from? It sure is to pay homage to our participants. We are not our diagnosis. We are so much more than that. So using words such as exceptionalities, our gifted relatives, that's why we chose that term. So I apologize, it's a mouthful. I am going to now introduce Chief Larson Anderson from Norway House Cree Nation to now have the floor. Miigwech.
Let's see. I stand here today as a chief of Norway House Cree Nation, and I represent the people of Norway House. As many of you know, Jordan River Anderson is from Norway House, and her born from a distant relative of mine. And many things have transpired since I've been chief, and going back to what makes you go forward, what makes you push hard every day of your life as a leader. When you see these children, you see these adults now, continue to struggle with their exceptionalities. In the early days, in the 90s, late 90s, Norway House Cree Nation funded this process. It kept it alive. It birthed it. And for over $1 million was spent by our nation to help our children get better. And it did work to a large extent. The government eventually came around. And it was very gratifying to be able to continue to help your people. These programs have made life better. But when you're starting at below zero, that better only means it reached probably at level zero, at a break even. In the past few years now, you can see the mistreatment of our rights, of our lives, by this Canadian, or the country of Canada. Imagine if we weren't treated so badly. Imagine if we were even treated like a human being. We wouldn't be sitting here today with a report asking for more money. Our nations, our powerful, strong, unlike everybody else, wants a better life. We as chiefs are thought of as in the way, always asking for more money. I'm one to tell you, I don't like asking outsiders for money. But as I find out more and more of the way we are treated, an example is in our territory we have Manitoba Hydro. When I first became chief, I had in my mind I used to think that we were put somewhere where we were settled through our treaties in lands that were not habitable or that we're able to grow with or prosper with. Until one morning I woke up and heard the water flow and realized Manitoba's made billions of dollars from our waterways, our shores. So we just haven't been treated fairly. It's not our fault. Imagine if we were treated fairly. Where would we be today? We see in the news about countries fighting, killing, demanding justice, protecting themselves. You know, I pray that we will never see those types here in Canada. But things have to change. So with this report, I'm really pleased to be able to understand more and get to meet more people, some beautiful people. And as Chief of Norway House, we want to assist and help bring about change and continue to make our lives better for each and every one of our people. And once we have been accepted as a fair partner in this country, other people will get to know more about how beautiful our people are. So I go say thank you so much. God bless you.
Our next presenter is Chief Curvis Anderson, Penamutang First Nation. Please welcome Chief Anderson.
Morning, everybody. Thank you for being here. First of all, I want to thank Chief Anderson for the opening prayer. It's a good way to start something like this, even our meetings. Just sitting there thinking today we're focusing on the adults with exceptionalities. There's one area in our health disparity compared to other nationalities that have again, you echoed here, and I second everything the chiefs are saying here, the board, and it's about being treated fair. We see a lot of stories of even ourselves personally going to the hospitals, seeing how we're treated, and how people walk right by us. I'll just say to the front of the line and get those services that we have to wait and wait and wait for. Little things like that, on to the bigger things of like this one here, the exceptionalities. And just thinking of the staff, our frontline staff, and I want to acknowledge them. These are our staff that work with these lack of supports and lack of services, going beyond their duties, trying to make it work with the little that's provided for our clients, especially these ones here, adults with exceptionalities. Another thing is I'm glad to see this is focused on the clients, on the participation of those that were part of the study. I thank the research team there. You see a lot of big things that are happening for our families are led by our people. CFS matters are led by our children. The residential schools were led by our students. And so I'm glad to see that we're headed in that direction, and that we are there now, where it's going to be our people that'll lead this cause to get equitable treatment compared to everybody else. It's going to work out. Because when they take the lead, when the people take the lead, that's when things start happening. I always see myself as a chief, as a servant of the people. All chiefs see themselves, we work for the people. And it goes a long way when we get that support from our frontline experts, our directors, our health directors, our CFS directors, our education directors. I always say, you want to talk education, talk with a teacher. Talk CFS, talk with a social worker. The same thing goes with the health. We have to acknowledge that their participation and their work that they've done. And also the same goes with FINISM, our adults team, and their part in getting this done today. So I don't have a script. I always prefer not to read. I stumble if I try and get a paper in front of me. Not that I can't read, but I prefer to speak from the heart. And at times I do the same as a chair here. I do have a note sometimes, but today I just wanted to speak, and I want to thank all the team that's got this done. I also want to thank the participants and the workers in our health centers that got it done and our team here. Thank you. Be great. God bless you.
Oh my goodness, this mic is high. All right, we are going to flip the script here and hear from our Director of Intergovernmental Relations and Community Engagement, Amanda Mawasagi.
Bujun Denaway Maganatak Wase Gijigo Indigo Namedotem Megize Sagagan and Donji. Good morning, everybody. My name is Amanda Miyawasagi. I am the Director of Intergovernmental Relations and Community Engagement for the First Nations Health and Social Secretariat of Manitoba. So I just want to also extend my gratitude for everybody taking their time to come here, particularly our families and our leadership. It shows the commitment and the willingness for people to address these issues and to improve quality of life for everybody. This study is super important. It is the culmination of a couple years worth of work. We tried to do fulsome engagement to really hear the experiences of our people living with exceptionalities, living with disabilities, living with gifts in our communities. And so this report is a lot more than recommendations. It really is the lived experience of our people. And so it's very important that, you know, the powers that be take the time to digest this report, that they make commitment to implement many of the recommendations, if not all, to do what's right by our people. The study really focuses on the need for inclusion, the need for culturally appropriate supports and services. The report really focuses on self-determination, the self-determination of our people living with disabilities and exceptionalities to determine how they want to live and be integrated into life, how they want to lead a fulsome life across all lifespans. Secondly, this report really looks at person-centered care, about bringing the services home to our people. Far too often our people are forced to, leave the comfort and security of our homes to receive services that are available and afforded to people off reserve. The study highlights the importance of honoring all these unique needs, gifts, strengths of each of these individuals that live in community. And it provides a roadmap for change. There's 31 very detailed recommendations informed by our participants, our families, our elders, and health experts. It talks about things about social determinants of health, people needing the ability to have meaningful employment, meaningful opportunities to participate in recreation, life skills. There's recommendations that speak to infrastructure. A lot of our communities don't have accessibility ramps and the infrastructure necessary to allow our people to go into these public spaces, these community spaces. The report talks about building blocks for a more equitable and supportive future for everybody. So again, I just highlight that commitment is really required from all levels of government. Our communities know how to take care of our people. We love our people. We want to do the best for our people. We need the appropriate resources to do that. So I'm going to end there because I really like to hear from our families that came today. It's important that their voice is elevated. So, Kajimi Gwitch.
All right, so I was the fortunate person to sit on the couch with the participants in the study, hear their stories, but this report would not have been written as it was without our allies. And I would like to now introduce you to one of our exceptional allies, Erin Schobloom, who is a senior policy advisor at FNISM.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm really honored to be here and honored to be a part of this project. There was a collaborative project led by families, led by First Nations health experts and elders and knowledge keepers, and I'm just humbled to have been a writer. That's one of my gifts. I just want to highlight that this is a very rigorous study. It involves perspectives from 32 participants from First Nations all over Manitoba, with perspectives from on-reserve experiences and off-reserve experiences from the north and the south. And so the recommendations and the findings in this report shouldn't be taken lightly. Many of our leadership have already spoken, but I want to highlight that it not only calls for bringing services home to communities and to families to support them in a self-determined way, but also to address the root causes and the social determinants of health. All of our families and participants spoke to how the social determinants of health negatively impact them. Things like poor housing, inaccessible community infrastructure, poverty. These are things that are felt, that we know are felt by all First Nations heavily, but it's especially felt by persons with disabilities or exceptionalities. So the recommendations are leaning towards that, that root causes need to be addressed as well. And lastly, I just want to highlight the role of caregivers who are taking care of their loved ones, walking this life with them and experiencing their gifts and also the challenges that they face. They've dedicated their lives to providing care. They're often caring for many people at once, and they're burning out. And so one of the key areas of recommendations that we have in this report is a need to support caregivers financially, through training, through respite, so they have a break. And I just wanted to highlight and thank all the caregivers for all of their dedication and their love. And that is all. I want to step aside so we can hear from the voices that we're here to hear from. So, thank you.
Relatives in the room and media, we would love to talk all day about this, but I would love to have that privilege to hear from our families, two families that are a member of the 32 we touched base with for this study. So to my right, we have the Bercier family who will be going first, led by Jennifer, Jean, and their daughters Abby and the exceptional Kaylee Bercier. Please give them a warm welcome. Miigwech.
You have not to stand if we pretend to like probably see you better.
Okay, Kaylee, I'll help. Okay.
Oh, I'm always reminded how tall I am. Okay. So I would really like to thank it's a really long title, the First Nations Health Secretary of Manitoba, for all their work. I've always wanted to advocate, because we've lived through having a child with exceptionalities on and off reserve. And I always experienced and had more services when we lived off reserve. And when Amanda came knocking, and she's really a good advocate, that she always knocks on doors and breaks down barriers. So I'd like to thank you all for the work you're doing, as well as the allies and the elders and all the community members and all the families that shared for this study. So I wanted to introduce to our boss. This is Kaylee Bercier. And her sister Abby, and my husband Gene. So we are from Apaska Cree Nation, and we claim Gene, but he's from Moose Lake. He lost his identity. I was telling him, why don't you introduce us in your language? And he's a little shyer, so he doesn't want to. But I just wanted to introduce who we are, and we are here in support of the recommendations of this report. When Amanda came and we seen the ad, we really wanted to offer our voice, because we have lived, and these are lived experiences of we've had while supporting Kaylee. So in number one, we wanted to say our support is in our home community, in our homes. So we always wanted to stay home, but there's a lack of services until Jordan's principal came along. And then we started having all the services that other children in Canada receive, such as clinical services, equipment, respite, access to advocates. There was all kinds of equipment. They came into our home, assessed things. But this was short-lived because Kaylee turned 18 very quickly as the program was being developed. So then we were short again. So then now we're back to on reserve. When people turn 18, there is no transition services. So you face barriers again, even though your disability doesn't leave you. So you have to leave your community again. So there's a lack of, there's no clinical services when you're an adult and you still have a disability. You need the occupational therapist, speech and language, the psychologist, the physio, all of that. If you live in the province, within the provincial barriers of their lines, I say lines because I live literally 2 kilometers away where there's an invisible line with a huge barrier. So when if you live on either side, depending where you live, you'll receive respite if you're in provincial. You'll receive a supported employment, supported living, supported equipment, supported OT, occupational therapy. But if you live 2 kilometers away, you don't get any of that. There's no respite, there's no equipment, there's no on-reserve clinical service providers, and there's no community living disability services worker. So we wanted to offer our support and hope that the Canadian government, as well as your First Nations here, that there is no services and there are ways. If we can do it in the provincial, we can do it on reserve as well. So what else we wanted to talk about? We wanted to talk about the one-on-one support. We also want to talk about Kaylee has dreams. Kaylee wants to go to school like her sister. Her sister has 2 degrees, played college hockey in the States, and had the opportunity, but Kaylee doesn't. There's no place for her to go for post-secondary or vocational training, but yet she's a bright young girl. She wants to play sports. She wants to join events. She wants to be part of the community, but there's really nowhere for her to go. So we are planning ourselves. One of us are going to have to stay home and look after her in June because she ages out of school. So there's nowhere for her to go. There's no school. There's no day service. There's nowhere. So our quality of life is going to go down because we'll lose one salary, and we'll have to figure out a way to keep her entertained. Well, how is she going to live? Where is she going to go? What is she going to do to continue learning? We don't know. So we wanted her to be up here so you could see how bright she is and how energetic she is, and she wants to live like everybody else. So we also wanted to let you know that had she not had the support of her sister, 2 parents, and our financial ability, in our community, you are put in a care home where there's no supported living, there's no supported employment. You are placed there as a resident. And you know, when you're in a care home, their quality of life is for the end of life. It's not for a vibrant employment, schooling, but they are looked after and cared for in their basic needs. So I just wanted to shed light on that, and I hope you read these recommendations because these are from the people who are living, as well as the caregivers who are their spokespeople. Okay. Oh, my husband, he really wants to thank Marcia. Marcia came to our house. She continued to call us. She continued to make sure that we were informed of where the study was at. And she's a real champion. So thank you. Anything else? Kaylee, you want to say something? Say hi.
Like say hi.
I just wanted to share with you, when we lived in Saskatoon and Kaylee had services, she would see a speech and language therapist. She was talking. She would talk to us. But now she can just communicate through gestures and words. Like today she was hungry and she kept telling me she wanted a strawberry. So we had to go downstairs. So I'm just out here as an advocate all the time that if we can provide it, their quality of life is much better. Okay. Say bye. Say bye. Bye. Oh, she said bye. Well, thank you.
Well, we need our caregivers, that is for certain, but we also need our champions working on those important things like health careers. Who's going to staff our health system that we're creating? I'm really proud to say that not only are they champions for our exceptional relatives, they're champions for those health careers and paving that way so that our faces, our relatives will be in these positions caring for our relatives. So I would like to now introduce the one and only Joni Wilson, who is a member of the coalition and a real catalyst when it comes to this file. We're beyond privileged that you are a part of our study, and we also welcome you here. Would you like to come up here to speak, or are you more comfortable there? En bay. Please welcome Joni Wilson, a member of Peguis First Nation.
I think I'll have to wear my glasses. Good day. My name is Joni Wilson. I am a parent of a now 21-year-old son who lives with disabilities. We are from Peguis First Nation, and to tell a bit about my son Aiden, he is a very smart, beautiful, extremely witty, and creative young man, and he is the light of my life. I guess I'd first like to start, though, with thanking the team at Finism for inviting me to be part of today, and also being part of the report that has been released today. I'd also like to thank Chief Anderson for the opening prayer and for the leadership who is here today to support this report and support families like our own. So a bit about our situation and our family. My son Aiden was born with congenital heart disease. He has about 6 different heart conditions in one, and he's had a lot of medical treatments, a lot of setbacks over time, including as part of that, he had an unrelated diagnosis of cancer as a baby and suffered a stroke that had paralyzed the right side of his body, including his face, his arm, his leg, and prevented him from speaking and walking and doing a lot of the things that he had done earlier in his life. After time, some of those movements came back. His speech came back with a lot of hard work and a lot of therapies. And he does have long-term effects of his stroke, but he's doing very well today. Part of Aiden's diagnosis, too, is that he was born with, or he was diagnosed with global development delay. This may be related to the heart defects that he had because he's got a very complex heart disease. And he does have other diagnoses, including being on the autism spectrum and oppositional defiance disorder, among others. He has had a very challenging life, right from the onset, from infancy to being a preschooler to being in the school system, and still faces challenges today. As a family, we have lived both on reserve and off reserve and have experienced the challenges of jurisdiction issues as a family and as a young man who lives with disabilities. We have been part of provincial systems and we have been part of federal systems. And while through the province we have been able to access such things as community living disability services, children's disability services, and other disability supports, while we've lived on reserve, we've had no access to those because of the jurisdiction and the lack of services that extend on reserve. Unfortunately, there are no federal services that are the equivalent. Unfortunately, when Aiden was younger, when we lived in our community, again, there was no supports for him, and this was prior to the implementation of Jordan's principle. We were forced to move out of our community and move to Winnipeg and receive services here. And although services did start to roll out through Jordan's principal, he got to the age at 17 where we did have the opportunity to move back to our community. However, we knew that once he turned 18, all services would end. And we'd be right back to the same situation where we would have nothing. We would have no respite. We would have no supported education. He would have no supports for employment, no supports for housing, no day programs, and a lot of the same barriers that the Bercier family here spoke of. Through my work, my day-to-day work, I work in Jordan's Principal. I work doing advocacy and being part of a lot of boards and committees, and also outside of work to help support people with disabilities, and especially to advocate for First Nations people with disabilities, because there is not a lot of awareness out there in our province, and for those who aren't affected, that when you live on reserve, you don't have disability supports. You can now through Jordan's principal. However, that ends at 18, and there's nothing left after that. A lot of families are forced to relocate to urban settings or outside of their community so that they can access supports. And like ours, it's a disconnect from community, from family, and often not even being able to, return home and visit for periods of time because of the supports that our loved ones need. Through the experiences of our family and through the advocacy work and, really trying to fight for this cause, it did get to a point where a lot of that advocacy and a lot of that fighting wasn't making enough or making any headway. And so our family has chosen to file a human rights complaint to the federal government to fight for our loved ones and to fight for all of those who have similar situations like ours, or those who have different situations but need these vital supports to live, full, happy, and supported lives in our communities. As part of our human rights complaint, we also have a coalition of families whose stories could also be heard and who will also fight for this cause, which Joelle, who is our lawyer from the Public Interest Law Center, will speak more about. But maybe I'll end here, but I really want to thank the team at FINISM for doing this report. I really hope that a lot of people read it from front to back and share it with others so that there's more awareness, there are more people fighting, because in this day and age, we, as First Nations people, we are Manitobans, we are Canadians, and nowhere else would there ever be a denial of services for any other ethnic group. And this shouldn't even be a day, shouldn't even be a thing in this day and age. So thank you very much, and thank you.
I know that we are pressed for time. However, I would like to now introduce Joelle Pastora-Sala, who is an attorney at the Public Interest Law Center. Immediately following Joelle, we will pause for a Q&A if there are any questions for our leadership or families, and then we're going to have a celebratory feast. Do it like we do. So please welcome Joelle.
Good morning. My name is Joelle Pastora-Sala. I am a lawyer at the Public Interest Law Center of Legal Aid Manitoba. The Public Interest Law Center represents Joni and Aiden Wilson, as well as a coalition of individuals and families who have filed human rights complaints against Canada about the gaps of services for First Nation adults with disabilities or exceptionalities in Manitoba. More specifically, 2 complaints were filed at the Canadian Human Rights Commission in July of 2021. One complaint was on behalf of Joni and Aiden Wilson, and the other complaint is on behalf of a coalition of over 25 families who are directly affected by the gaps of services and supports for First Nation adults with disabilities. The coalition complaint focuses on the ongoing systemic discrimination and the failures by Canada to provide necessary supports and services to First Nation adults with disabilities in Manitoba. The FINISM report highlights some of the discrimination experienced by the coalition members, which are included in their human rights complaint. Some First Nation adults with disabilities have never received access to required disability-related services. Others began receiving services through the creation of Jordan's Principle programming in 2017, but they were cut off as soon as they reached the age of majority. Overall, the FINISM report is clear. Disability-related supports are not available in the community of choice for First Nation adults with disabilities in Manitoba, including in First Nation communities. The report also cites young First Nation adults with disabilities who are being told their only option is to move to a personal care home, which is designed for the elderly and not appropriate for young adults, vibrant young adults with disabilities like Kaylee and Aiden. First Nation adults with disabilities are fearful that they are falling through the cracks. First Nation children with disabilities and their families are fearful that they are being cut off at age 18 of services. First Nation adults with disabilities and their families are worried about what will happen if and when their families are not able to provide them with supports. Anecdotally, we know that First Nation adults with disabilities are already falling through the cracks and are living in the streets without any supports and services. The Coalition, as well as the Wilson family, are joined in supporting many of the recommendations in the FINISM report. At this stage, they are asking Canada to support the creation of services and programs which promote inclusion, cultural connectivity, and seamless transition of supports between and throughout the life stages of persons with disabilities. Just a quick update in terms of next steps. I already indicated that the complaints were filed in 2021. In 2022, Canada had the opportunity to respond to the Coalition and the Wilson complaints. Interestingly, Canada has not denied the allegations of discrimination. And it's our understanding that the Canadian Human Rights Commission is continuing to consider the Coalition and the Wilson complaints, and we have been told that we will be hearing within the next few days about the next steps in the legal process, which may include mediation. In the meantime, we encourage First Nation adults and families with disabilities in Manitoba to join the Coalition and reach out to us for more information if they have questions. Thank you.
For more information on our report, in addition to the Coalition, please visit our FINISM website. It may not be on there at this moment, but we will ensure it is. So if you are interested in joining the Coalition, please visit www.fnhssm.com. You'll find other health-related information there as well. All right, so now we are at the time in our agenda again. Miigwech for bearing with us again. It's very important we heard from everybody on this important topic, but I would like to open up questions from media. If there are any questions for our guests, now would be the time.
I'll maybe talk to the families afterwards, but just something with the report in terms of kind of what are the next steps of this report. Have there been any preliminary conversations with different levels of government? Is there kind of a meeting plan to present these recommendations?
Yeah, so in the onset of this study, we know the federal government will respond within 6 months. That is the federal government. We know there's other government that should play a role here, and as Chief Kent said, we're very promised with the new Indigenous Premier here in Manitoba. But I'm going to ask, can we get a roving mic for any of our questions? We do have a Facebook Live, and it would be great if we were accessible to all of our viewers. So thank you for that question. Are there any others? And I will step back. I'm not going to answer all of them. I love this study. What can I say? I understand also media will be asking families to come and chat with them individually. So Again, please expect somebody to tap on your shoulder. But were there any other questions? All right. And we checked, we moderated online. Miigwech Renata. This will bring us to the conclusion of our time to get
Excuse
today.
me.
Oh,
Just
yes.
wanted to have an answer to your question. You know, this issue's been around for years, and the agencies have been requesting extra funding or more funding, and they've gotten some positive news through some programs, but not all. So it is been made aware with the federal government through the agencies.
In the room, we actually have Panay Mutang leadership as in Chief Anderson, but we also have the Director of Health and the Director of the Adults with Exceptionalities study, which is a pilot for our adults that are living with a diagnosis or a disability. So I would just like to pay homage that there is hope. It is hopeful that this pilot will be replicated in all 63 First Nations here in Manitoba so that our services can be more equitable as compared to all other Canadians. Any other questions? All right, Grand Chief Merrick, the mic is yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to reiterate from a First Nation lens, and we have to be very realistic in terms of the services that are provided to our First Nation communities. We got to remember the fact that a lot of our First Nation communities only have nursing stations. So they're not able to be diagnosed. There's probably many, many more in our First Nation communities that are born with disabilities, born with cleft lips, born with all these things that we're not able to document. And as a pilot project, it brings to light the lack thereof services, as mentioned by the families here today, and the line between First Nations and living off the First Nation, and that those services that are provided by the health centers, by whatnot in the city, are very, very different for our people that live on reserve. And it's sad that we have to see our people relocate because of that matter, because they don't have the supports of their families, or they end up in Saint Amant, where they grow up, where they're practically having to live there and grow up there. So this is very real, and I'm so grateful that it's being brought to light as to the disparities between our people. And just to reiterate what the chief was saying, it's black and white when it comes to the services that are provided to our people on reserve. So we will push the governments, and we will support the study that's being done, that it does not collect dust as other reports that have been done. We will push and we will support from the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs. Agosane.
Miigwech, Grand Chief. So, in respect to our guests, the media, we know that this has gone on a little longer than we intended. We are going to now wrap up the formal part of our agenda. Please know that we will be here. We are celebrating with our relatives and our leaders in the room. I would like to now invite Chief Larson Anderson, for a closing prayer. And then again, please stick around and join us for that celebration and share a meal with us before you depart. And bless our food, please, Chief.
Sure, let's start with that. Thank you once more for this day. Father God, we come to you one more time today to thank you for bringing us all together and giving us the understanding of what we need here for our children, our people, and that we continuously come to you in faith that this will happen and that it will become a reality. We also ask that you bless our food and bless the hands that prepared it. In Jesus' name, amen.